This week in the Pentagon, reducing stress on the force. Defense leaders want to extend troop dwell time at home after deployment.
There's no question in my mind that the 15-month tours were very, very hard on our troops and on their families.
Plus, the military and money, taking control of your personal finances.
We were young and stupid and spent a lot more than what we should have.
From taxes to credit and spending, service members get financially fit.
The first step in managing your money is figuring out where it's all going.
Plus, a look at resources available to military members and their families.
We have a variety of services that we offer for tax preparation assistance. All of them are designed to be fast, easy, and free.
Welcome to This Week in the Pentagon. I'm Petty Officer Liz Murray. Tough economic times for the country have forced many Americans to take a closer look at their own personal finances, more specifically, their spending and savings habits. This week, we have a series of reports on the military and money and the unique set of financial challenges facing service members. It is tax time again, but the shadow of our faltering economy creates a renewed interest in all things that have to do with money. As jobs disappear and stores close, service members have a few extra advantages over the rest of the nation during this time of crisis.
If I had to compare myself, I'd say I feel pretty secure with the job. The way the military is set up, I do feel like it's a stronger job security.
But a constant paycheck is not the key to good financial living. Jesse and Wendy Mitchell, a Navy family living near Washington, D.C., can speak to the kinds of money problems people can get in.
We were young and stupid and spent a lot more than what we should have. We were told by other family members it's not a good idea to use credit cards, but I think everybody makes those mistakes.
Over 90% of the people I saw for pastoral care and counseling had a significant financial component to their problem.
Chaplain Sarah Shirley found her observations were not unique. Commanders, first sergeants, and supervisors told her that most problems they had to deal with when it came to their service members were financial. Though the military has relatively strong job stability and a lot of benefits for its members, why are there still so many issues with money?
The short one-word answer, marketing.
They show you a product, but they show it in a way that you need it. You can't survive without it. Your life will not be the same if you did not have this product.
Debt, consumer debt, and consumption beyond our means has been being marketed to Americans for decades now.
So many people fall into that thinking, well, I have to have that because I need it, which in reality, they don't really need it. It's just something they want.
Everybody knows that if you spend more than you earn, you're going to be broke. And yet, most of us spend more than we earn because we have this societal comfort level with being in debt.
Other than drowning in a sea of debt that can crush your credit, financial problems have additional consequences for service members.
Getting in trouble with a debt can cause you to lose your clearance, can cause you to not be in the military anymore.
We had a new commander come in. He was taking away a security clearance a month in a really relatively small airbase wing, a security clearance a month for financial issues.
The Department of Defense takes these financial problems seriously because they are readiness issues. But just because the largest department of the government is out to tackle the issue doesn't mean it is an easy fight.
To me, it's a David and Goliath story. And the credit card companies and other folks that are trying to sell are like Goliath. And then people like my colleagues in America Saves and Military Saves and myself and all the wonderful financial educators in the military, they're like David. You know, this little guy with a slingshot up against this big giant. And, you know, you remember David won, so we can win this.
We can all relate to issues with money and debt. Coming up in the show, paying taxes, your credit, and much more on the road to financial well-being. But first, here's a look at other news this week in the Pentagon.
U.S. forces are stretched but resilient. That from Defense Secretary Robert Gates in a news briefing February 10th. Efforts to extend dwell times for service members between deployments, he says, are part of an effort to reduce stress associated with divorce, suicide, and post-traumatic stress on America's military.
My hope is that we will begin to see a lengthening of the dwell times beyond a year, perhaps toward the latter part of this year. And I think it will incrementally lengthen over time. We won't go straight from 1 year deployed to 2 years at home. We'll more likely go from 1 year deployed to 15 months at home to 18 months at home and so on.
Also in the briefing, the secretary said the Pentagon's policy of not allowing media coverage of the remains of returning troops to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware is now under review. Issues of privacy rights and concerns for the feelings of victims' families are being taken into account. The Senate has confirmed President Obama's pick for Deputy Secretary of Defense William Lynn. He was officially sworn in February 11th after the Senate confirmed him by a vote of 93-4. Mr. Lynn served as Undersecretary of Defense and Comptroller in the Clinton administration. Also this week, more than 15 pirates were involved in hijackings off the coast of Africa. According to U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, they were arrested after hijacking 2 vessels in the Gulf of Aden. The pirates will be temporarily held aboard the supply ship USNS Lewis and Clark while evidence is evaluated and decisions are made on where they can be transferred and prosecuted. For This Week in the Pentagon, I'm Marine Sergeant Ashley Bryant.
Recruiting numbers are in. The Army National Guard is down for January, but ahead of its annual goal. According to Defense Department figures released February 10th, the Guard met 88% of its goal. The other 5 reserve components met or exceeded their goals, with the Air National Guard meeting 127% of its goal. All active duty components met their goals, with the Army and Marine Corps both showing strong numbers. Officials say retention and attrition rates remain within acceptable limits for active and reserve components. Coming up, tax time. Before we go to break, take this quick financial quiz. How often should you file a tax return? The answer, every year. If you die without a will, who determines the amount of money your spouse receives? The answer, the laws of your state. Which of the following is always subject to income tax? Inheritances, life insurance proceeds, jury duty, or gifts? The answer, jury duty. Welcome back to This Week in the Pentagon. Well, it's that time of the year again when Americans gather up their W-2s to file their income tax returns, a chore most people fear and loathe. Although April 15th has become a much dreaded day, it hasn't always been that way. Army Sergeant John Mann gives us a brief lesson on the history of the federal income tax.
Taxes! Taxes! Beautiful, lovely taxes!
This is Kent Brockman live at the Springfield Post Office on Tax Day.
Taxes are as much of our country's heritage as freedom, democracy, and baseball. They were one of the big gripes against Great Britain that led to our Revolution and Declaration of Independence, and have been a point of conflict ever since.
Daddy, what do taxes pay for?
Oh, why everything. Policemen, trees, sunshine.
But things weren't always the way they are now. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to impose taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, but also requires that such taxes be uniform throughout the United States based on a national census. This limitation on Congress wasn't much of an issue at the time, since the federal government received most of its revenue from tariffs, which is a tax on imports and exports. But to get an idea about how American citizens felt about taxes, when the federal government imposed a tax on the alcohol industry in 1791, it met with fierce opposition that eventually led to an armed rebellion. The so-called Whiskey Rebellion of 1794 finally ended when President George Washington led an army of over 12,000 into western Pennsylvania to restore order. The first federal income tax was not imposed until 1861 by President Abraham Lincoln to help pay for the Civil War. This tax law expired in 1872. The Revenue Act of 1894 created the first peacetime income tax to make up for revenue lost to falling tariff rates. This tax was 2% on incomes over $4,000, which in those days would only affect about 10% of the population. Since this was not in proportion to the census, the Supreme Court ruled the income tax unconstitutional in 1895. This all changed with the 16th Amendment to the Constitution. Originally proposed by President William Taft in 1909, the amendment says that Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without regard to any census or enumeration. The amendment was ratified in 1913. That same year, Congress levied a 1% tax on income over $3,000, created the Federal Reserve, the Internal Revenue Service, and Tax Day.
Sir, why did you wait until the last minute to pay your taxes?
Because I'm an idiot. Happy?
Will you look at those morons? I paid my taxes over a year ago.
Dad.
I went ahead.
The next question is, how long are you going to wait to file your tax return?
Don't!
Although April 15th may seem a long way off, it is never too early to file your tax returns. In fact, the Department of Defense provides a variety of tools and services for military members and their families. Here's a look.
Finishing taxes doesn't have to be a hassle or even an expensive prospect. Though a cottage industry springs up across the country every year, offering to handle your taxes and maximize your refund for a small fee, service members have other options.
We have a variety of services that we offer for tax preparation assistance. All of them are designed to be fast, easy, and free. And the best part is if the members do a refund, it can be in the member's bank account within as few as 10 days.
Each service is a little different when it comes to the kind of tax assistance they provide.
Each of the legal offices provides some form of tax preparation assistance, usually in a tax center. All the member has to do is to bring in their documents, come in and visit us. Usually we can prepare the return right there on the spot. The people that are doing the return preparation have been trained, they've been certified by the IRS, they can e-file the documents, and we get them all taken care of at one time.
For those who prefer to file from home, the military provides another option online.
www.militaryOneSource.com, and that provides online tax return preparation software. They can go right on their own home computer, prepare it, file it, and never even have to leave their house.
Whichever option you choose, it is important to have all your tax documents together.
We need them to bring their Social Security cards. We want to make sure that we get the members and the spouses and any children, so we get all their Social Security numbers correct. They need their W-2s, and they need any other documents that are going to be tax related that they may have gotten in the mail.
Just don't take too long. April 15th will be here before we know it. For This Week in the Pentagon, I'm Army Sergeant John Mann.
Coming up, keeping financially fit, protecting your credit and identity. Welcome back to This Week in the Pentagon. As we continue our reports on you and your money, we shift direction to personal finance. More specifically, credit and the importance of savings. With the country in the middle of a deep economic recession, we all must take control of our spending.
It allows us to buy our homes, our cars, and other big-ticket items. Without it, our lives would be vastly different. If you abuse credit and overextend it, you can create a pile of debt.
DoD has been very concerned, and the military service has been very concerned with financial readiness for a long time.
Commander David Julian helps run Financial Readiness Challenge events, or road shows like these at military installations around the country. The program, which began in 2003, is intended to raise the level of financial literacy among service members and their families.
We provide extra financial resources, educational resources, and financial experts, one-on-one counselors, to just kind of sit with the families, present information to them, and help them again kind of learn those tools to be financially ready.
One of the most sought-after topics at these events is
credit, understanding what your credit report is, how to get good credit.
Is it lower cost than
And that's where Rod Griffin comes in. He represents one of the 3 credit reporting agencies and helps service members understand the basics of credit. He says it all starts with your credit report.
A credit report shows your credit history. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you pay your bills late? Are your balances low? Are your credit cards paid on time? So that's really the history. Your credit report acts as your credit references for other lenders.
The key to good credit, he says,
is pay their bills on time, keep their balances low, and apply for credit when you need it and have a plan to repay it, and then stick to that plan. If you do those things, your credit scores will be fine.
He says credit history says a lot about the many aspects of a person's life. It's important, he says, to keep that history in good standing by knowing exactly what your credit report says about you.
The best way to get your credit report easily is to go online. When you get that report online, it's through a secured, encrypted system.
All consumers are entitled to a free credit report from each of the nationwide consumer reporting agencies each year. It can be ordered online at www.annualcreditreport.com.
As a service member, the last thing you want to worry about while deployed or away from home is someone stealing your identity to commit fraud. The crime, which happens more often than you think, is called identity theft. It happens when personal information about you is used without your knowledge. It can destroy your credit and ruin your good name. Sergeant John Mann has more.
Somebody took it away from me in the blink of an eye. In less than a month, this woman destroyed what I had worked for 15 years.
I feel it's a loss of control that someone's out there pretending to be you and doing things in your name that can come back to haunt you.
The message is disturbing and comes from people representing all walks of life, all telling how it felt to have their identities stolen.
I was mugged, they got my information.
It can really negatively affect your life.
For service members, the risk of having an identity stolen is increased by how often they move and the frequent transfer of personal information and documents.
The other is the youth. Because of the relative youth of military, they're at a higher risk of things like credit card fraud, bank fraud.
John Saleo knows the consequence of identity theft firsthand. He was a victim.
It took 2 years of my life to repair. My identity was used to commit crimes. So I spent 2 years fighting in court to prove that I was not the one that committed the crimes. I lost about $300,000, and that was only one of the cases. The other case, I had a bankruptcy declared, so my credit was destroyed.
So how are most identities stolen?
When I was a victim of identity theft, my mail had been stolen.
I think I made a purchase and they stole all my debit card information.
Oftentimes identity theft is a crime of opportunity. Somebody pulls it off the desk because it's there, or they pull it out of the box.
According to a recent research study, the number of identity theft victims rose by 22% in 2008.
Victims of identity theft have spent $5 billion trying to undo this harm.
It's easy to fight back against identity theft. Simply protect your personal information by not giving it out over the phone, especially if you don't know who you're dealing with. Safeguard your Social Security number and keep a close eye on your military ID. Finally, for documents that you don't need anymore that have your personal information on them, use one of these.
Another way service members can protect themselves is through an active duty alert. According to the Federal Trade Commission, if you're military and are away from your usual duty station, you can place an alert on your credit report to minimize the risk of theft while deployed. To place an alert, you must contact one of the 3 major credit reporting agencies.
I think the biggest message here is a lot of us know what the tools are. We know some of these things already. It's that we don't take the time to enact them. You know, we think that somehow recovery is going to be easier than prevention, and it's not.
Your personal information is cash, and in the wrong hands, it can destroy your life.
Filing your taxes, protecting your credit, preventing identity theft. Worrying about money is no fun, but an absolute necessity in today's world. To keep service members connected to their finances, later this month, the Department of Defense will kick off Military Saves Week. The goal, to build a financially fit force. Money management is all about habits. The habit of spending more than you earn creates debt. Eliminating that debt requires another habit, spending less than you earn and saving the rest. This is what the Military Saves program is all about.
Different organizations, starting with commanders, including family support programs, defense credit unions, military banks, make an executive level decision to participate in the campaign and use their existing channels of communication, their existing methods of influence to encourage people to get out of debt and save money.
The key to Military Saves is positive peer pressure.
The Military Saves campaign is something that's done not just for the military community, but by the military community to empower us to encourage and support each other to make better choices.
The first step is changing a spending habit into a savings habit.
The first step in managing your money is figuring out where it's all going.
Well, first we like to start out with a simple spending plan. How much is your income? How much do you spend every month?
If you write that down, you might realize that you have a lot more money left over than you thought you did.
Or is there a deficit, and do we need to deal with that?
And the sooner you start saving that military pay and then putting it to work for you, the more you'll have at the other end when you come out and you want to retire and you want to live a better life.
Jesse and Wendy Mitchell found that they needed to grow a new set of habits in order to get ahead of their debt.
I know exactly what we owe. I have it mapped out. I have a budget, an actual physical written budget. And I know exactly how much our bills total. I pay all of our bills online. I put how much money the bill is and what date I want it paid. It does it for me, so I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to write the checks. So I really don't spend very much time on paying bills at all.
And now the couple are looking at a debt-free future.
At this point in time, our plan, if we follow it to a T, we should be able to be completely out of debt, including student loans, no car debt or any of that, by the time we leave here in about 3 years.
Military Saves Week begins on February 22nd, and installations around the world will hold special events to encourage service members to pledge and save. This year, Military Saves will broaden their focus beyond just service members and spouses.
We'll be launching Military Youth Saves this year. So if kids start not just learning about money and thinking about money, but seeing their parents do money in a responsible way, and they start saving as children, they're much more likely to have good financial habits in adult life.
The ultimate goal for Chaplain Sarah Shirley is to create financially secure individuals and families that will then become a stronger military force. That's our show this week. We want to thank all those involved for their contributions. Please be sure to tune in and join us again next week as we examine the top news stories surrounding the Department of Defense. I'm Petty Officer Liz Murray. Thanks for watching. In honor of President's Day, we leave you with these series of paintings of U.S. presidents who also served as guardsmen.